Hey, Pin Dude here, and welcome back to my vintage pinball. This week's episode is going to be a game room / pinball workshop update video for November of 2018. I'll show you a couple things going on in the game room, and then we'll come out in the workshop and go over a couple tools and a couple of the parts orders that I got in that have been sitting here for a little while actually. For various games. We got some parts orders for Stern Stingray, we got some parts for roller games, and we got some parts for the current game that we're working on, which is the 1979 Gottlieb Countdown. I'm about halfway through part number 4 of the Gottlieb Countdown restoration update, so that video should be posted next Sunday, so look for that video to come in. We're working on the head, and we're a good ways through restoring the parts on the head, and we're actually starting to get to some of the electronics in the head and get those parts rebuilt, repin connectors and all that coming up. But like I said, this is just a little game room / pinball workshop update, so let's get started. Alright, so a little game room update. I haven't really gotten much done in here. You'll see in a couple minutes here. I still have a bunch of junk in here that we haven't figured out where to put it yet. But the most important thing I did is I got a new curtain for in here. This room is in the front of my house and it faces south. So it gets full sun in here, like full, bright, really bad sun. And as you know, you don't want a lot of UV sunlight on your pinball machines. It'll fade cabinets, especially the reds in the cabinets. It will fade play fields. It will fade back glasses. It's just really bad. That's why a lot of games are in basements where there's no sunlight. I don't have that advantage. So what I had up here previously and I left up are these Roman shades. And as you can see, these are more of a light filter-in shade. Because they don't cover the whole window, there was slits of sunlight coming in, you know, hitting this game, that Disco Fever, and hitting the whole side of Countdown. So I went on Amazon and I got these kind of curtains are called room darkening thermal curtains. It's a real thick fabric. I went with black because that's gonna, you know, darken the room the most. And I got a 1-inch diameter curtain rod off of Amazon, and I put that up over the Roman shades, so now we have actually double protection from UV. The curtains were for both panels. These are 52 by 63 inch curtain panels. It was like 15 bucks for the pack of 2 curtain panels. And the curtain rod is actually an Amazon Basics curtain rod, and that was like 18 or something. So, you know, for just over 30 bucks, we have a nice solution to darken this room. And let me turn out the lights and I'll show you how dark it actually is. I was actually impressed. I actually put these up, I think like 4 or 5 days ago, but now that with the time change and we're getting towards winter, I leave for work in the dark and I come home in the dark. So the first time I saw it was this morning. I came downstairs and I noticed how dark it was in here, and I came around the corner and was quite impressed with how dark it is in here. So let me kill these photo lights and I'll kind of show you how good of a job these room darkening curtains do. So as you can see, it is pretty dark in here. I wish I should have mounted it a little bit lower. I have a little bit of a gap here I need to work on. But the light you see hitting the wall here and across the top is mostly coming from the sliding door that's on the front side of this room, and that never has direct sunlight on it. So quite impressed. It's you know, for 30 bucks, it's nice. And now if you want to come down here during the daytime and play pinball, it's a nice low light to play pinball in. All right, so now that we have the Countdown lower cabinet in here, I can really get a feel for how the room is. And obviously I really like the distance I have between these games. There's plenty of room. So we've already, in the last Game Room update video, established that I can only fit 5 regular sized pinball machines in here. And that's not bad. I think 5 pinball machines is the perfect number to have. You know, if you don't have a really large room to store your pinball machines, nothing wrong with having 5 games. You know, you have 5 working games, and then you start working on a 6th game, and when you get that 6th game done, you sell a game and move the 6th game into the 5th game's spot. So I like that. But I do have all this room where all this junk is here. I do have all this extra space. And since I can't have the pinball machines, you know, lengthwise on this wall, I can have upright, some kind of upright cabinet. So, you know, a pinball machine comes off the wall roughly 56 inches. And then if you take into account how much space you need to be able to play, you know, you're talking about 80 inches. So if I moved this countdown all the way down to the other end, 80 inches comes to right here, right about here where my foot is. And the good thing in this back corner that you can't see, there's that little shelf that you saw in my previous Game Room update video. I don't have to worry about having enough room to slide the glass out there, because where the camera is right now is the door open into this room. So you just got to slide the pinball machine, and it slides really easy on the carpet. You just got to slide it on an angle a little bit, and then you can send the glass through the door opening to get it off to service the game or unstick a ball or whatever you need to do. So that leaves me, let's see, that leaves me about 68 inches. And a typical upright style cabinet is, let's say 30 inches. So that gives me room for 2 upright cabinets. So one upright cabinet would obviously be a video game. It's always nice to have a video arcade game in a game room. For me personally, I am leaning towards a dedicated Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet for 2 reasons. One, I really like Mortal Kombat 2. That came out when I was in high school, and it was just a game that, you know, me and my high school buddies would love to play. I had a Mortal Kombat 2 undedicated in like a Dynamo cut corner cabinet years and years ago, but I really like the dedicated cabinet. And the second advantage of that is if you can only have one video arcade game, you're best off going with a JAMA cabinet because you can switch PCBs, so you can play different games in it. And you can also set up a simple MAME cabinet using a JPAC JAMA adapter to play even more games. And then, so the third actually advantage of the Mortal Kombat cabinet is it's a 2-player, so 2 joysticks, and then 6 buttons per player. So that gives you a lot of options for various games that you can play in it. So definitely leaning towards that. Of course, dedicated Mortal Kombat cabinets have gone up in value. So you're looking probably $1,000 to get a decent dedicated Mortal Kombat cabinet. Anywhere from a Mortal Kombat 1 to, say, a Mortal Kombat 4 cabinet. But definitely leaning that way. I'm not going to worry about purchasing one of these until I get all 5 of my pinball machines done, which is a ways off. And then for the second upright cabinet, I want something mechanical. So what can you guys think of for a mechanical game that's in an upright cabinet? I can think of a couple off the top of my head. One being, of course, Baby Pac-Man. It's not the greatest game, but they made a ton of them, so they're pretty easy to get. They don't cost a lot of money. They are kind of a bear to keep working. A lot of bulletproofing you need to do to them. So I think that would be a fun project. It's, like I said, it's not the greatest game in the world. The Pac-Man video game is not the greatest, and then, of course, the playfield being a small little playfield is not the best. But that's an option. Another game I really like pitch and bat games. If you're, baseball pitch and bat games. They're usually in a pinball style cabinet, but in the mid to early 1970s, right around 72 to 74 or 5, Chicago Coin made pitch and bats in upright style arcade cabinets. They're a little wider than our arcade game. They're about 34 to 35 inches wide, but I would be able to get a cabinet like that in here. You do see them for sale quite often. So that's an option. That's an option I really like because, like I said, I really like pitching bats, but I wouldn't want to use up a pinball slot for a pitching bat because pitching bat's just a game you play, a couple games on, and then you don't play it again for a while because they're not nearly as interesting as a pinball machine. Uh, I'm sure there's plenty of other mechanical style games in upright cabinets. I just can't think of any at the moment. So if you can think of some kind of mechanical game that's in an upright style, like video arcade game style cabinet, let me know in the comments down below. So parts order boxes are starting to pile up here in the pinball workshop. Some of these orders have been sitting here for over a month. So I need to go through them and kind of label what they are because I'm starting to even forget what some of these are. Kind of backlogged on projects. As you know, I bought the Gottlieb Countdown right when I was in the middle of working on the playfield on roller games. So I'm kind of set back on my time frame on getting all these projects done. So I've been ordering parts throughout the way, so I have everything, everything that I need ready when I need it. But like I said, some of these are so old, I need to label them so I remember what they are and what they're for. So let's go through a couple of these and see what we have here. All right, so this first box here is an order that I actually did this past week. And this is from, I get most all my pinball electronic parts from Great Plains Electronics. But in this case, I just needed a few things, and I ordered from a company called Allied Electronics. Allied Electronics. They have a bunch of useful parts that we can use for pinball machines. Their shipping is pretty cheap. I think I got the order in 2 days. So definitely check out Allied Electronics. It's another electronics place to put in your, places that you go to order. Great Plains Electronics, Allied Electronics, Mauser, DigiKey. There's a bunch of different places that I've ordered electronic parts from. So what this order is, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm going to be doing electrical work on Gottlieb Countdown. And I had forgotten that the single edge connectors on Gottlieb System 1s and System 80s use the same kind of connector pin that the .156 header pins use on Williams games and other pinball machines, except we typically use trifurcon pins on most other games. But on these single edge connectors on the Gottliebs, you can't use a trifurcon pin. You need a non-trifurcon pin connector. So I've looked through my Gottlieb connector parts that I have on my wall over there, and I only had like maybe 30 or so of these. So I ordered, I think, 111, because 111 worked out to be like $9.99. So I wanted to spend 10 bucks on these connectors. So I got a bunch of those. And also, what we're going to be doing, I'll be going into more detail on this in a future episode. There's a mod that Clay Harrell came up with, if you go to pinrepair.com and go to the System 1 section, where he adds LEDs to the circuit board. So there'll be an LED on the CPU for 5 volts. There'll be a LED that lights up for negative 12 volts. And then you add a 5-volt light to the driver board, and then a 60-volt light on the power supply. And then just by turning the game on that, okay, 5 volts is working, negative 12 volts is working. So I got some 5mm through-hole component LEDs. I got yellow, red, and green. And then to do that mod, you need to add some resistors to the LED, so you don't just power up the game and pop the LED. So I ordered the resistors that I needed for that, and of course, I ordered I think 100 of each because they're so cheap. You can get 100 carbon film resistors for like $1. And I think that's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got in this order. All right, so I got another box here. This one's from Great Plains Electronics, and it looks like I ordered it back in August 24th. August 24th. And if I look through the manifest of what's in this order, this is that 3-page order that we did for Stern Stingray. In part number 1 of the Stern Stingray episode. So it's just a whole bunch of header pins, header pins, connector housings, bridge rectifiers, resistors, capacitors. So that's what this box is. I just never labeled it. Okay, here's another box from Great Plains Electronics, and I'm not 100% sure what this is, but I'm thinking it's for, geez, you know, I can't even think of right now what this is. So let's open this up and pull the manifest out and see what's in here. I did this order September 20th, so more recent, and it's a bunch of capacitors, resistors, diodes, 0.093. Oh, this is all the parts that are going to rebuild that Data East power supply that I bought for Back to the Future. If you recall, I wanted to replace the Rotten Dog power supply in my Back to the Future. So I went on Pinside and put a 1 ad for an original Data East power supply. I got that off of Pinside. So this is the order of all the capacitors, fuse clips, diodes, resistors, all the connectors, everything we need to rebuild that power supply. And that episode will be coming up soon, I promise. Hopefully in the next coming weeks. I'm finally going to get to that because I do want to get that project done. It's going to be a fun project to rebuild that power supply. I'm really looking forward to it. So this was like $40 worth of parts to rebuild that Back to the Future power supply. So let me label this box. All right, so this little box, I don't need to open this one. I actually remember what this is. One of those Great Plains Electronics orders, I needed a bunch of bridge rectifiers because I typically change the bridge rectifiers in any game that I restore. And Ed was out of them at the time at Great Plains Electronics. So I went on eBay and I got a couple of the same brand that Ed sells. I got a couple on eBay. So that leaves just one box left. This is a box from Amazon. And this box has been sitting here the longest. And that is because when I stopped roller games, I was about ready to do the playfield touch-up and clear coat on it. And I was out of these automotive body repair mixing cups that I mixed the clear coat in. I was out of this size. This is the bigger size cups. I only had the smaller cups. And then I also got a couple of these acrylic paint pens. I'll cover this much more when we get back to roller games and I do the pinfall, the playfield touch-up. But, you know, when you're doing touch-up on your pinball playfields, you don't want to use Sharpie. Sharpie will run like crazy on their clear coat. You don't want to use like an enamel marker paint pen. That will smear on their clear coat. The only paint pen that you can use is an acrylic. I'm doing all my other touch-ups with acrylic. I use those little dollar store acrylic bottles. But when doing key lines, the black lines around the inserts, it's really nice to have these black acrylic paint pens. And they come in, the tips come in a couple different sizes, so I got 2 different sizes. I've used these before, years ago, back when I was doing a bunch of playfield repair, but of course they've dried up over the years, so I got a couple new ones. So that is all the boxes that were sitting over there, and now they'll all be labeled, and I'll actually remember what they all are. All right, so I haven't really gotten any new tools. Pretty much have everything I've needed for the projects that I've been doing lately. But one thing is my wire strippers. I really like this style of wire stripper. It's kind of the squeeze handle, and there's a bunch of these all the way from like the cheap Harbor Freight ones up to these, which I was in one of my workshop update videos. This is the Capri Tools wire stripper that I got off Amazon. And this worked pretty good for a long while, but unfortunately, this past week it started screwing up where it just won't strip the wire sometimes, and then at other times it will. So I still think it's a pretty good tool, but I think this is just, I guess, a poor design. I guess nobody can make this style. I don't know if there's any, because the problem with these is they're all plastic, or, you know, the handle's metal on some of them, but, you know, the actual cam part that makes the action is plastic. So I don't know if somebody makes maybe an all metal one. I haven't been able to find one. So I needed to replace this because I need wire strippers. I use them all the time. So I picked up these off Amazon. These are the Gardner Bender wire strippers. If you watch the Pinball Workshop YouTube channel, he did a tool spotlight on these. So once again, these are Gardner Bender, I believe is how you pronounce the brand. I got them off Amazon. They're $15. They're all metal. It's kind of like a cheap, like pot metal, but everything's metal on it, and it's got these nice grips on it, and it's worked really good so far. I mean, I haven't used it a ton yet, but I really like them. So I would definitely recommend, if you need a wire stripper, this is a pretty good one for, you know, the 15 bucks is not a bad price for these. I was hoping these were going to last. Unfortunately, they didn't. But I have pretty good faith that these are going to last. So, all right. So if you're working on a Gottlieb System 1 or a System 80, there's a particular tool you need. This is the Molex extraction tool for the single edge connectors that are used all over the Gottlieb System 1 and 80 games. They're used on the displays, they're used on the MPU board and the driver board. So there's no way to get these pins out that I know of without this tool. So this tool is a Molex part, and it's 011030016. This tool is mighty expensive. This looks like it should cost like $1.50. But this tool goes anywhere from like $15 to $17 online. Luckily, I didn't have to buy it this time around. I had one from back when I restored a System 80 black hole, Gottlieb black hole. And I kept it, luckily, in this packaging that it came in. So digging through my toolbox, I was able to find it. I thought I was going to have to order another one. I was in like a little bit of a panic mode. But what this tool does, you see it's got like a point on it. And you need to slide that into the cavity right here on the Molex connector. You slide this into the slot, and carefully that will unlock the pin so that you can pull the pin out, crimp on a new pin, and put it back in. Now the key to this tool is do not bend it. You know, you just want to slide it in. Don't bend it around. If you bend it around, this tip will break right off, and then you just wasted $15. So it's a great tool for what it is. I've heard some people will take like a little jeweler screwdriver and file it down and grind it down to this shape. I haven't actually tried that, but I will tell you from using this tool in the past, it works really good, and it makes it fairly easy to get these pins out, because these pins are a bear to get out of these single edge Gottlieb connectors. Alright, so I bought another tumbler. I mentioned in a previous video, I currently have two tumblers. One is this Berry's 400 tumbler, and the other one is the Amazon Franklin Arsenal Quick and Easy tumbler. And I mentioned in an updated video that that Amazon tumbler is just not working out for me. It just doesn't have enough power and enough rotation in it to get the parts as clean as this Berry's tumbler does. So the Amazon tumbler, the $40 Amazon tumbler, I'm still going to use it for like a first step of cleaning off really rusty parts and walnut shells. But I needed another Berry's tumbler because I tumble a lot of parts, and it takes a long time, you know. I mean, it takes 2 days that I run parts through, and I don't like to pack the tumblers real full. So I needed more capacity because I was getting to the point where I wasn't able to tumble enough parts in the time frame that I actually needed the parts to put the cabinet back together or the playfield back together or whatever I was working on. So now I'm going to have three tumblers, two Berry 400s and the Amazon tumbler. So This is the Berries Model 400. It's been around for years. I've had my first Berries 400 tumbler for like 10 or 12 years now. And they're pretty much the same price wherever you look, anywhere from $65 to $72 basically. I got this from Bay Area Amusements. And the reason I got it from there was because I needed some other supplies, like I was running low on Novus 2 and some other stuff, so I just decided to get it there. At Bay Area Amusements, it's $65, but their shipping is a little high. So unless you need other pinball parts from Bay Area Amusements, you're probably better off either getting it from the Berries website, where it's $72 and you can check what the shipping is for your location. There's some other places that you can buy this for around $70. Also, Cabela's sells the same tumbler. They call it the Cabela's 400 tumbler, and it's green instead of blue. And they sell it. They actually sell a kit for $69.99. It comes with like a sifter. It comes with some walnut shell media and a little bottle of polish, and it's $69.99. So check out Cabela's. See what the shipping is. Maybe that's a better option. Who knows? The other reason I went to Bay Area Amusements is because my old tumbler is so old that the lid finally cracked. And it's on its last leg. So Bay Area Amusements had a new lid for $7. So I got a new lid for my other tumbler. And then I got the new tumbler. So pretty much the same as my old one. The sticker's a little different, and instead of like a push switch, it's got a regular rocker switch. So slightly updated compared to my 12-year-old one, but everything else on it looks identical. So we're going to set this up. And what I like to do is I'll use my tumblers for both walnut shells and corncob media. And obviously you don't want to waste the media. You don't want to dump it. So I like these Glad. These are the Glad extra large family size Tupperwares. They come in a 3-pack for like, I don't know, $4 or $5. And it is the perfect size for the media that fits in this Berries 400 tumbler. Just perfectly fits in this Glad Tupperware. So I can run walnut shells in here, and then if I want to switch this over to corn, I just dump the walnut shells into this Tupperware. It fits perfectly. Put corncob in here, and then if I need to switch back, use another one of these, put the corncob in, dump the walnut shells in there, and we're all set. So definitely, if you're in the market for a tumbler, this is the tumbler to get. The Berries Model 400 or the Cabela's Model 400. All right, so here's my new tumbler lineup. This is that $40 Amazon Franklin Arsenal Quick and Easy case tumbler. The one that I really don't recommend. Spend the extra $25 and get the Berries 400. So here's the new Berries 400, and here's the old one. You can see my lid. It's all hairline cracks, and actually this crack ended up going all the way through. So for $7, I got that new lid for it. You can also see how dusty the corncob media gets. And it's still good. I typically don't change it until it starts to discolor. It'll turn a darker color. The corncob's just a lot dustier than the walnut shell media is. I also ordered another box of the corncob media. So if you did see one of my previous videos, the corncob media I get off Amazon. It comes in a 15-pound bag. So here's the bag. This is my old bag. This is what I have left out of it. It's actually quite a lot because walnut shells are heavier than corncob media. So like a 20 or 25-pound bag is probably somewhere comparable to a 15-pound container of corncob media, since the corncob media is lighter. So it lasts a really long time. And I get this, like I said, I get it off Amazon. It's $15. I haven't really priced around to see if there's anything cheaper, but I figure coming in at $1 a pound is not bad, and it lasts a really long time. I find it lasts just as long as the walnut shell media does. So once again, Frankfurt Arsenal corncob media on Amazon. And then for the walnut shells, I'm still just using the pet shop stuff. And I also get this off Amazon. It's the KT walnut for bird litter. So since we got our new berries tumbler here, I'm gonna load it up with some walnut shells, and I already have plenty of parts from the head of the Gottlieb countdown that we're working on now. I have plenty of parts that I need to do, so starting tonight, all 3 tumblers will be running. So these hold quite a bit of media. You want to fill it up about 3/4 of the way with whatever media you're using. So now that's all ready to go. I just put my parts in, put a little chrome polish, the Turtle Wax chrome polish that I use in my walnut shells. A couple dabs of that, and the parts are ready to run for 24 to 48 hours, depending on how crusty your parts are. And I know I talk about tumblers a lot, and maybe you're even sick of hearing me talk about tumblers, but tumblers are such an important part to pinball restoration. There's really no other way that you're going to get these parts looking as good as you will with the tumblers, unless you're going to send all your zinc-plated parts out to get replated or something like that. The tumblers are my most important tool to pinball restoration, and, that's why I talk about them so much. All right, so there's all 3 tumblers running, got it loaded up with various Gottlieb countdown parts. And it's not really that loud considering there's 3 tumblers running. What I do is I keep them on the floor, and on my garage floor here I have these rubber click-together floor tiles that I got from Lowe's. So it does a pretty good job at dampening the noise. And when you're in the house, you really don't hear it, which is a good thing since these things pretty much run 24 hours, 7 days a week sometimes when I'm doing a restoration. Alright, so I ran a bunch of stuff through my new berry tumbler with walnut shells, and now I want to convert this and change it over to corncob media. So I dumped the walnut shells into this family size extra large Tupperware, and as you can see, it's a perfect fit for the capacity of the berries tumbler. And I will put a lid on this and put it on the shelf, and it'll be all ready to use the next time I want to run walnut shells through this. So now I want to clean out the inside of this. I want to get rid of any residue that's in here, and then I'm going to wipe it out with a damp cloth with some glass cleaner, and then blow it off with my air compressor blowgun. Dry it out real good. You don't want any moisture in the bowl here before you put your media back in. So let me clean this up, and then we'll get some corncob media in here. Alright, so I got my berries tumbler here all cleaned up, and I blew it off and dried it off real good. So we're all ready to put corncob media in it. I keep a zip tie on my corncob media bag here so no moisture gets inside. And now I'm going to try to carefully pour this in and not spill it all over the place. And I want to fill it, 3/4 of the way up. Alright, so we got our corn cob in there. Now I'll take a bunch of hardware that I want to tumble. And I'm just going to run that down a little bit. And now, I'm just going to put a couple dabs of Magna aluminum polish in here. And put the lid on, and I'll run this for 24 hours, and then I will put a couple more dabs of Magna aluminum polish in there, run it for another 24 hours, and then we are done with this load of hardware. So you'll also notice in a lot of my recent videos, one of my new favorite tools is a Vaporust that comes in this gallon container, and it's anywhere from $16 to $19 for a gallon of this stuff, and so far I haven't needed more than a gallon for anything. And my favorite container is the same container I use for changing my tumbler over. These come in the 3-packs. This is the Glad family size extra large Tupperwares. It holds almost exactly a gallon of evaporust. So it's a perfect combination. A gallon of evaporust fits in this, and all your brackets, screws, hardware, whatever you have that is rusty fits in here perfect. Where I came into problem was a lockdown receiver, too long, and a couple other bigger parts from the cabinet were too long. So I think what I'm going to do for that is make the PVC container that people use to put their pinball legs in, and then they dump a couple gallons of evaporust in it. I'm going to make up one of those PVC containers. I just need to see which diameter I need for like a lockdown bar receiver, because I think that would be the widest piece I would need to put in there. But I plan on going to the hardware store probably next week, so I'll update a video with what I end up coming up with a container to do, like lockdown bar receivers and prop rods, or bigger parts that obviously aren't going to fit in a Tupperware container like this. All right, so there you have it, a little game room / pinball workshop update for November of 2018. Once again, if you have any ideas for a upright style cabinet, some kind of mechanical game, there's even some redemption games that I think are kind of neat, that have some good replay value and actually require skill, which most redemption games don't. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I'm still a ways off from getting the 2 upright cabinets for the game room, because I need to get Gottlieb Countdown done. I need to get the Roller Games Playfield done. And then after I have those 2 games working, then maybe I'll start looking for something before we really start digging into Stern Stingray and getting the restoration done on that. In the meanwhile, I still want to do the electrical restoration on Stern Stingray so we can get that game up and running and make sure all the boards and everything are going to work. So that'll pretty much do it. There's not a lot else going on in the pinball workshop. Like I said, I'm working on the head of the Gottlieb Countdown. We should have that done within the next 2 weeks. And then it'll be exciting for me because we'll be working on the playfield of Gottlieb Countdown. And there's not a lot to do on that. We're just going to go through and clean it up and get it back together so we can get Gottlieb Countdown done. So a lot coming up in the coming weeks. I'm way behind on projects. Work's been kicking my butt. And now with the time change and the shorter days, it's dark when I leave for work. It's dark when I come home. It's cold. This morning it was 26 degrees this morning, and it never got out of the 40s today. So that winter funk's already starting to set in. But hopefully I'll get some time away from work to actually get some stuff done and catch up on some of these projects. So stay tuned to My Vintage Pinball. You can check me out on Facebook. It's My Vintage Pinball starring Pindude. If you have any comments or questions you'd like me to answer on the video, send me an email at with the title Viewer Mail in the subject line to fierodoug@gmail.com. And that'll do it. I'm Pindude, and this is My Vintage Pinball, and I will see you next time.